Hello folks, how's it going? A completely unscripted video today on why this hobby of ours is awesome for the old mental health, because recently we've had a lot of things going on from our friends over at Games Workshop that have put the hobby in a bit of a bad light, and quite frankly we've had to do a lot of videos on the channel that are quite negative, and I hate doing it. I don't like it. I'm not one of these people who likes to farm negativity for engagement. It just so happens that, unfortunately, the hobby I follow has a Games Workshop attached to it, and they seem completely obsessed with detonating their own hobby and their own fan base most of the time. Give us money so we can tell you how much we hate you, is essentially what that modus operandi seems to be over there right now. And it sucks. It really, really, really sucks. And it gets draining after a while. It gets really, really to the point where you're dreading them doing something else. I put it on my post the other day. I really do dread them, the next thing they're going to do, because I need a break. I need a break from negativity. And it's alright people saying, well, just don't cover it then. I can't not cover it, right? That's double negative, but there we go. I can't not cover it. It's a YouTube channel. You know what I mean? And the amount of people who'd be like, North, like, I've had members and Patreons going, can you not comment on this, please? Because that's why we pay you. And they're right. You know, you're right. You got to do what you got to do. But that doesn't mean it's not annoying, right? Another double negative there for you. Because it is. It's extremely annoying. And I wish I could not do it, especially recently. Now, those of you who know my own personal situation will know that my grandpa passed away very recently. Last week, in fact. Last Wednesday, the 30th, he passed away. So it's been a trying week, to put it mildly, and his funeral is on the 22nd of August this month, so looking forward to that. Really not looking forward to it. It's going to be terrible. I also had to spend £300 on a new suit. The last time I had to wear a suit, I was 3 stone heavier than I am now, which is about £45. So obviously, I'm not going to fit into my old suit, and even if I did, I'd look like a child wearing a dad's suit. So I had to go and buy a new one, essentially. £300 later, here we are. You know? But I'm going to look good on my granddad's big day, which is good enough for me. I've been asked to do a speech, and a few of you will be like, oh, that's good, that's North's thing, you know, you should love doing speeches. Yeah, I like doing speeches to my audience, right? So if I'm in a classroom or an online lesson or even on here, I know the people there want to listen to me, they're my people. These are going to be all my granddad's friends and their friends and, you know, family members that I've not seen in a long time. That's more nerve-wracking than doing a class in front of... Like, I've taught 300 people once, around about that number, right? For a big seminar. That wasn't as nerve-wracking as this. This is a lot more nerve-wracking, so not sure how I'm going to go with that, but we'll see. But anyway, lots going on at the moment. Why did I bring that up? Well, the hobby has kind of been my escape in all of this week. It's kind of been my, you know, break glass in emergency sort of a thing. And do you know what I really hate about that is that it is a thing that I use to readjust my mental health. You know, it's something that I say to guys all the time. You need to do something that's going to put you in that Zen state. People have heard me say this before, right? I don't mean meditate. I mean something that occupies your brain so much that you can't think of anything else. It's why I always say to guys, if you want to get fit, go do martial arts, go do boxing. Because you can't think of anything else when a very large man is trying to choke you out or knock you out, right? You can't think of anything else. And by the way, when you do stuff like that, everything else that is scary in life becomes not that scary anymore. Because you're like, why am I scared of this? This massive dude is trying to punch my face in about 2 days ago, you know what I mean? Like, and I was doing that for fun. Why am I scared of this, right? So it's something that I really do recommend. Painting models, though, puts you in a similar state, especially when you're doing like the eyes and details and things. You are there, basically, you are absolutely transfixed on what you're doing, and your entire brain is pulled over to doing what you're, you know, to doing your painting. Your mind can't really wander. And even though people say, well, isn't that really tiring? No, it isn't. It's actually very relaxing, right? Your mind shuts down and you're doing this one really fine motor skill task, which is great. It means you're in that Zen moment. You're living in the moment. You're thinking of nothing. You know that sense of emptiness that Buddhists or guys like that try and tell you to reach all the time when they say, you know, you need to empty your mind, become an empty vessel, and then you'll be, you know, you'll have clarity. You know, you'll be able to think things through. That's what painting models does, right? It empties your mind of everything else because your mind is on this one thing. It can't think of anything else, or you're not going to do it properly. And getting into that state is seemingly very effortless as well. All you've got to do is start painting, and literally you get in that, like, very, very, very quickly, you will get into that state of not paying attention to anything else. I've listened to audiobooks, and I'll sit there thinking, I don't think I listened to that at all. But then I'll know every single character and every single thing that happened, and it's just weird. It's really, really, really weird. Like, it's like I didn't listen to it, but I know everything that happened because I was listening to it, and I had fun listening to it. It's a very strange sensation. Other painters out there will be able to back me up on that, but it is really good. The amount of times my mind has felt fuzzy, and I myself have been having a really, really bad day in terms of mental health. Like, I've not been on it at all. You know, I've been feeling really crappy. And then I paint. And whilst, here's the thing, a lot of people will say, well, I don't feel better afterwards, so why would I bother? It's not about that, right? Those of you who have had bad mental health will know you will start your painting process on like -6 in terms of feeling. -6, -5, whatever it is. All painting does is put you back to 0. That's all it does. 1 at best, right? It'll put you straight back to 0. But that's good enough. You're now on an equilibrium. You're now feeling normal. You'll stop painting after an hour or two, and you'll be like, huh. Okay, yeah, I feel normal. This is what normal feels like. If you want to know what your actual mental health is, or your actual mind, what it feels like to be you, right? Do painting for an hour. Do model painting for an hour, and then step back and examine how you feel. That's you. That's you at 0, essentially. It's an amazing reset tool, and not just Warhammer, any hobby that requires you to paint in such a way is really good for this. The reason why gaming isn't good for this is because with gaming, your mind can wander, right? Your mind can wander, can do other things. It can want other things. You can crave other things. It's the reason why a lot of people really love things like Dark Souls, which is true, right? Because you've got to stay absolutely focused on the task in hand, or you're going to die, right? That's one thing that Dark Souls does really well. It really does duplicate the feeling of doing painting and doing things like that. Unfortunately, it also comes with frustration too if it isn't performing as intended. But it still does have that whole shtick of being able to put your mind in that zen space. Most games can't, though. Most video games can't do that. Most video games, you're computing at a very, very, very fast rate, and so you're not resting, right? In terms of doing a motor skill like painting, you are literally having to shut down the brain and just do this one task. And it's awesome, you know? That's one really cool part of mental health and how the hobby can help. The other part is social. The amount of guys from Exile Fest who have texted me since, or I've gone for a drink with since, and I've said, man, like, I was having a bad few months, and then I went to Exile Fest, and I now have like 6 friends that I speak to, that we're in like a WhatsApp group together. We go for pints together. We go to, you know, we go to Warhammer World together. We do all these other things, you know, and that's one event. That's one event. Now, don't get me wrong, Exile Fest was set up to do that, you know. Not every tournament will be set up for you to make friends. Most of the tournaments are set up to play the tournament. This was very much a come and meet some other dudes event. And a lot of people did, and it had a lot of fun. But it also made me realise that is a crucial part of the hobby. It really, really is. Like, getting in front of other dudes, other people, and just talking to them. This is the reason why in Hobby Nightmares I get so frustrated with players who just sit there and they play the game. They don't do any social stuff. They play the game. They don't talk to you. They don't look at you. They just tell you what saves you need to roll. That's the worst kind of player, in my opinion. And that's something that that's somebody that I wouldn't want to play myself. I'd be like, nah, dude, this is horrible. This is horrible. I wouldn't want to do this, right? It's a social game. And I think anybody even at Games Workshop will tell you, it's a social game. It's there to make friends. One of the things that I really wish they would put back in the rule books is that golden rule of both players need to be having fun, or you're not playing the game properly, right? You're here to make friends. You're not here to stomp people into the mud. This isn't an e-sport. This isn't Magic the Gathering, right? You're not playing for blood. You're here to have fun with your mates. That's A1 what Warhammer 40k should be about, which is why when I talk about it becoming an e-sport in such a derogatory way, that's what I mean, is that we're moving away from that. Hey, it's a bunch of lads getting together over a couple of beers, having some fun, throwing some dice, eating some meat, and you know, seeing if the Emperor will safeguard humanity today, or whether the Tyranids will eat him. That kind of thing. It's just fun, right? The current rules take away from that. The current rules wag their finger at you, tell you, no, you got all these secondaries to worry about. You got all these bloody gotchas to worry about, and all these stratagems to worry about, and there's so many rules to know that you can't really have time for your opponent because you're trying to remember all your rules, you know? Any wargame designer of salt, worth their salt, will tell you their wargame's A1 thing to do is to create a bond between the players, and so the players have fun with each other. That's A1. If your game isn't designed that way, it's not a very good wargame. Which is why Warhammer 40,000, in my opinion, is not a very good wargame. It's not designed that way. It used to be. It used to be. Right? It definitely used to be. A beer and pretzels, have fun with your mates game. Nowadays, it's an e-sport. And e-sports fucking suck. That's why nobody watches them anymore. Have you seen what the most highly rated things are on Twitch? It's not esports, right? It's chicks and hot tubs, right? It's Sinner, right? And by the way, don't come at me with that, because I was like, she came on YouTube. I was sitting there in the front room typing away on my laptop, and I've got YouTube, like I've got like a fireplace thing on YouTube, you know, like one of them, you know, one of them ambient things. Anyway, it runs out and it goes to the next video. And because I don't normally watch stuff like that, as in the fireplace thing, it just picked something, picked like a, hey, gaming thing you might like. And it's Cinnabrit. If you don't know who that is, type her in. My missus walks in and goes, fucking hell, she's gorgeous. It's like, huh? Oh, whoa, wow, yeah. And I was like, oh, this is what the kids are watching. Well, no wonder. No wonder. All right, fair enough. So that's what that is, right? That's the most watched thing on Twitch nowadays. It's not esports. Games Workshop are always like 10 years behind, at least 5 years behind the current thing, you know? Like, esports started to wane around 2019, 2020. In fact, I think the pandemic kind of killed them off. They were already on the wane. It was already becoming a little bit lame, seeing these little nerds in their t-shirts, high-fiving, most of them being Korean, you know? We're the London Spitfires. What? Dude, you're all from Seoul. What are you talking about? Right? Yeah. They're all high-fiving, playing Overwatch, and then going home and jerking over Lancer, or whatever her name is. Tracer. Was that her name? Tracer? Yeah. Anyway, moving on. Yeah, it kind of died out then, and Games Workshop are now getting into it, going, yeah, it's an e-sport, guys. Isn't this cool? Hello, fellow kids. You know, that kind of stuff, and it just isn't working. This is why I really want to safeguard that part of the hobby as a mode of self-expression and a mode of talking to your mates and just having a good time. You know? We're really losing that. It's going away. The A1 mode of Warhammer in 10th edition is tournaments. That's a real shame. That is a real shame. Now, do not get me wrong. Tournaments, absolutely, I've said this before, say it again, should be a part of the 40k zeitgeist, right? They always have been. They've always been here, right? But they've always been niche. In a group of 30 wargamers, there was always 2 or 3 guys who went to tournaments. And they would never try their tournament list against the normal dude because they'd get kicked out. They'd be like, no, dude, piss off with that, right? Unless they say, listen, do you mind if I take my tournament list? I want to practice with it. Yeah, fine. I'll try and beat you with my strongest list, right? But most of the dudes there were narrative gamers who had a beer in one hand and their dice in the other, and they were having fun. They were doing banter about 40k back and forth about this thing that they really, really like and that they really, really love. You know? Even at Exile Fest. Now, Exile Fest was a wonderful event. It really was. And people were having fun, chatting, talking, doing all that kind of stuff. But even then, walking around the hall and listening to the conversations, like 90% of the conversations were to do with the game at hand. And we're playing OPR. We're not playing like a really stressful game. We're playing OPR, right? But 90% of the conversations are about the game at hand. Until I would go to tables, and the Exile Fest dudes will tell you this. I'd go to tables and say, "Hey, do you guys know each other's names yet?" And they'll go, no. I'm like, "This is John, this is Dave." "Oh, all right, mate, how's it going?" Yeah. What round are you on? "Oh, we're on battle round 2. "Jesus Christ, you're halfway through the game already." "Okay, well, this is John, this is Dave. Dave, what are you into?" And they get talking. And the game would still flow just as quickly because it's OPR, but now they're actually talking to each other and they're doing what gamers are meant to do. This used to be a skill we just had as wargamers. We just have this skill of being able to just talk shit to the guy opposite you. Not nasty, but like say, "Hey man, that's cool looking Terminators. What was your thinking there by doing the hazard stripes that way?" Oh yeah, dude, like my guy's like from the industrial world, it's like a desert and blah blah blah, right? And that's what you do. You have this chat with each other. And that would happen with prompting at Exile Fest. A lot of the times I had to walk over to a table and just poke them into talking to each other a little bit more, and it would just occur, and they were right back in it again. And it wasn't just old guys either, it was young guys too. Young guys have this skill, it's there. You just have to get it out and say, man, talk to your opponent about things other than the game. OPR lets you do that. You can literally take your mind off the game and talk to your opponent and have some fun, make some friends, right? That's why I don't play 40k, because it genuinely doesn't let you do that. You have to be on it all the time. On your rules, on your opponent's rules, on your secondaries, on your stratagems, on all these other nonsense things that 40k throws at you, which nobody really likes. You know? And I think at Games Workshop don't really get what Warhammer is anymore, right? And I'm not saying that in a negative way even. I think it's a natural progression that they're so big now they don't really get it, you know? Two things have happened. Number one is they become too big to realize that the narrative crowd, the beer and pretzels crowd, the crowd that kept them in business all those years, right? They've grown too big to have dialogue with those people anymore. They're so big that it has to be an esport sort of a thing. And on the flip side, something else that I think they've noticed is that the real money is in creating a self-perpetuating marketplace. You know, if you're living in a world where Counter-Strike Global Offensive players were paying upwards of 15 grand for a virtual knife, then, and you're a company that sells models like Games Workshop do, you're kind of being reticent towards your shareholders if you don't chase those bucks, if you don't chase those competitive, money-grabbing opportunities. And in doing so, you're going to lose sight of what made 40k great. What made 40k great was Stan, the orc player, who's brought his orcs in a shoebox, lovingly painted, right? He's got several characters in there. He's got a big orc truck that he calls the party bus, that his war boss and a bunch of his knobs are in. And he's got like subwoofers on the back, right, that play music, quote unquote, as it goes up the battlefield. Now, Stan could do the meta thing, right, and stick to cover or deep strike or whatever it is, that's the current meta. But he chooses to have his party wagon go up the center of the field, inviting everybody to a party. That party is whack my fucking chopper into your face. It goes up the center of the field and it gets blown to smithereens. And in the old rules, if your guys are inside there, they might all die. And that's hilarious. That's really funny, right? But there were also rules in the old rules where if your thing, if you have, I think it was a certain special rule, it might have been rage or hatred or something like that. Anyway, if your transport vehicle blew up, you would get to charge from that vehicle straight away. We're in, right? You don't get to do it now, but you get to charge. You get, okay, I'm charging. They're charging straight from the broken vehicle. I'm going in, right? I swear the orcs had something like that. Somebody did it to me in the Apocalypse game. Right, I got this like massive truck down. I was like, yeah, that's gone. And he's like, yeah, well, I think I've got this rule. Yeah, I'm gonna just charge straight from the burning wreckage. It might have just been an apocalypse rule. I'm not sure, but it was still really, really, really fun. Like, you know, the war boss is so angry that his party bus is wrecked that he just goes and comes chasing at you with about 100 orcs behind him. You know, there are no rules like that in 40k anymore, right? There are no fun. Talk to your opponent. Have a laugh. Wow, what a good moment that was in 40k anymore. In fact, if they do happen, your opponent will call bullshit, right? If by some miracle, in your Warhammer 40,000 game, something really fun happens, like your, shall we say, Imperial Guard Commissar saves like 30 attacks coming in from Space Marines, or, you know, like Space Wolves, or whatever, right? Chaos, whatever it is. An Imperial Knight, Chaos Knight trying to stomp him, and he gets away with all of his saves. That's an epic moment. But you can guarantee the guy on the other side will be going, that's bullshit. That's just such shit. That shouldn't happen. No, it shouldn't. That's why it's cool. We and you don't play the game for the same reasons. Right? And if you have a game like that, it helps mental health. That's the last thing I wanted to talk about, really. Is Games Workshop moving away from that style of 40k basically means that they're stepping away from mental health. Tournaments aren't good for your mental health. You know, even if you enjoy them, you come away exhausted and done with the hobby for a while. For at least a week, you're like, yeah, I'm done. I don't know anybody who comes away from a tournament going, I want to do that all over again. Right? Even if they had fun, they're like, yeah, okay, do you want to do it again tomorrow? No. No, I'm done. I'm going to take a little bit of a break and then I'm going to come back. And that's fine. But my God, dude. Like, even boxers like boxing. Right? If their body could, they would stop their professional fight and go, I'll do it again now, yeah. Right? The body says no, but the mind's going, oh, that was really fun. I want to do that again. You know? Same with UFC dudes. UFC dudes like fighting. It's their hobby. Especially doing it in front of people, in front of big crowds. If their body held up and was instantly healed after a fight, you bet your bottom dollar they'd say, yeah, I want to do that again. Right? But a Warhammer 40k player, you tell him, hey, your body's fine. Do you want to play again? They'll go, no. Nope, I'm going home. You know, moving towards a tournament and competitive scene completely means that you're missing out on the mental health saving side of Warhammer 40,000. In my opinion. And stepping away from that is a bit of a slap in the face. It's something Games Workshop shouldn't be doing. They're going to do it. They've already done it. You know, it's pointless me moaning about it. Which is why I'm saying, if you value your mental health and you want to be making friends, right? Maybe stick to narrative 40k, older editions, or find yourself a group that plays it in a very fluffy way. You know, make some friends that way. You're not likely to make friends at a tournament, unfortunately. You're not much likely to do that these days. Okay, you may make the odd one, and you're lucky if you do so. But most of the time, you're not making friends at tournaments, dude. We were playing OPR, and people were hardly talking to each other at times. Right? They needed prompting. When they did, they made loads of friends. Because it does work. Wargaming's amazing if you let it do its work. And its work is to bring us all together so we can all have fun throwing dice and watching toy soldiers blow up on a battlefield. That's what it's all about. What do you guys think? Have I gone old and sentimental? Let me know in the comment section down below. I love you all a long time. I will speak to you tomorrow for some more Hobby Nightmares. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll speak to you soon. Have a good one. Bye now.